Welcome back to the Athletes Mindset. I'm your host, Tristan Gomez. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to talk about why I started this podcast and the mission behind it. As a former collegiate student athlete, I know firsthand how much focus is put on physical performance, the stats, the highlights, the wins, the losses. But what's most often left out of the conversation is the mental side of being an athlete, the pressure, the identity struggles, and the mindset it takes to keep showing up. I started the Athletes Mindset to create a platform where athletes can share their stories, speak honestly about their experiences, and show others that they're not alone in what they're going through. This podcast is about growth, resilience, and what it truly means to be successful, not just in your sport, but in life. Today's guest is someone who shares that same mission. I'm joined by Joe Burton, a great friend of mine and the founder of NJTraining, a company dedicated to helping young athletes develop the mental tools they need to reach their full potential. Joe works closely with athletes to show them how powerful the mind can be on the field and beyond it. In this episode, we'll dive into Joe's story, the work he's been doing with NJTraining, and his mission to empower the next generation of athletes. Then we'll reflect together on some of the biggest takeaways from incredible guests we've had on the show so far. I'm really excited for this episode and hear all the takeaways. Let's get into it. Joe, welcome to the podcast. How are you, man?
I am good. How are you?
Dude, living the dream. It's been super cool to see all that you've done so far, and just for the mental side of sports, especially with the younger generation. And I think it's something that doesn't get touched on enough. So I really appreciate just all that you do and just diving headfirst into this field.
Yeah, man. I am super blessed to be on here, super honored that you would ask me to come on and just talk a little bit about what we've both been doing, because I know that this is an industry, being the mental side of sports, that we've both talked about and known that it's such a big industry that needs to be talked about more. And you took some initiative and you took a step and you started a podcast, and now you're doing it. And so happy to be here, and I'm excited to jump in.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like you talked about, it's something that doesn't get talked about enough. And similar to you, I was kind of nervous, for the fear of failure, fear of judgment to start something like this, but you just go head first. And that's exactly what you did with NJ12-2 Training. Can you talk a little bit about what 12-2 Training is and your mission behind it?
Yeah, 100%. The first step, I love that point you made, is just the first step often being the hardest. And I think the mission, right, of what NJ12-2 Training is to provide athletes with personalized mindset coaching to help them maximize their potential on the field, but also more importantly in life, because we know that the mindset side of things in our sport, in life, in just everyday walk of everything is so important. It's so pivotal, and it often directs where we are going. One thing I always love to say is our thoughts lead to our actions, which then lead to our habits, good or bad. And so our mission at NJ12-2 is to provide the athletes with the mindset coaching, with the mindset tools, the tricks, the habits to put them in a better spot to maximize the gifts and the potential that God has blessed them with. And the 12-2 stands for a Bible verse that's in Romans, and it talks about, hey, we're not going to be conformed to the pattern of the world, which we're not going to be looking like the world around us, but we're going to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And it's biblical that it all starts up here. It starts in the most powerful muscle of our body, which is the brain.
Yeah, 100%. I absolutely love that, because I think so often we let our just outside circumstances kind of affect how we think, how we feel, and things like that, when in reality, we have control over a lot of things. And I know we've talked quite a bit, but just having a positive outlook leads to a positive outcome. And having a negative outlook leads to a negative outcome. And just the idea that you've understood that this was a problem going on and you can relate it to your faith and just help young athletes feel better, feel like they have more control, is just so cool. What would you say that your why is? Like when this first all started, this idea came around, what was your why?
Yeah, I think my why has really stayed very consistent over the years. And it kind of goes back to that scripture. It goes back to the faith. And it goes back to doing everything that I do as I'm doing it unto the Lord, and not for the people, not for the crowd around me. And so using my gifts and my talents and my passions that I feel that I have been given by the Lord to then go make an impact on those around me and on the people who are doing the things that I'm passionate about or that I once did. Right? I mean, you and I played football together. You and I go way back. We've been through it a lot. We've played all the sports. We've done all the things, known each other for years. And now we're in both unique spots where, hey, you're a coach at Millard North. And I get to be a mindset coach for my athletes, and I get to be a pastor, and I get to be a chaplain and do all these things and then give back and give back knowledge and give back wisdom and give back tips and tricks and things that I've learned over the years. And so my why is just to set up these students, these people that are coming after me, with, again, I know I'm saying these things a lot, but just the tips and the tricks and the mindset tools to help give them a little bit of a boost, a head start, on things that I didn't know when I was in their shoes, but now I know. And so I can pass it along.
Yeah, like you just said, I learned so much in 4 years of college that I would have loved to know, or had an idea about when I was in high school. There's just so many things on the mental side. I feel like I took everything so deeply. Every failure felt like life or death. And it takes so long for, I mean, like you and I to understand these things. And I think just my favorite thing about coaching is that I learn so much, but I can teach those guys all that I've learned way earlier than I learned it. And I think that's the most important thing. Kind of
Yeah.
going along with that, what are some of the things that you see a lot of young athletes struggle with the most?
Yeah. And this falls right into that question, but to piggyback back off of like that why, and then things that you talk about you've learned as a coach, I think so many of us don't realize at a young age the things that are out of our control. The things that you talk about, you're playing at a 4-year university, you don't know all these things, you go in, you're kind of the new kid on the block, and you're like, man, I don't know what to do. And you think that you have to control every little thing. You have to do every little thing right. Every little thing has to go my way, do this. But the reality is there's so many things that you can't control, and you have to learn really quick the things that you can. And so you being in a spot now as a coach, me being in a spot now as a coach, like we have the ability to teach these kids what they can control and and not to forget what they can't control, but to, hey, take those things that you can't control with a grain of salt. One thing I love to say is we can't control our universe, but we can control our earth. And our earth, right, is our effort, our attitude, our response, our thoughts, and our habits. And those are all things that you can control. And so as long as I'm staying on my feet, I'm staying grounded, I'm not looking so far outside into the universe, because remember, we can't control it.
Yeah.
And I control my earth, like those are the things. And if I stay to that, things will slowly start to fall in place, and they'll be a little bit more easy to control.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mean, it piggybacks, right? It piggybacks on those things that the things that athletes do struggle with. Because I think athletes do struggle to be where their feet are. And I mean, heck, I struggle to be where my feet are sometimes. I don't know about you, but life speeds up. It seems like things are always going 1,000 miles an hour. There's always one thing over here, one thing over there. You have your hand in a lot of cups. I have my hand in a lot of cups. And so we're always trying to go, go, go. But sometimes we got to take a step back, right? And realize, hey, be present. Especially in the athletic world today, it's a what's over there mindset. It's a, hey, the grass looks way greener over there, so I'm going to enter the portal. Or hey, the grass looks way greener over there, so I'm going to transfer high schools even. We're seeing it younger and younger. And so I see this almost like comparison game, with athletes, where it's schools, it's positions, it's, hey, I'm at my school and this kid had a better practice than me. I feel like I'm falling behind. And I always say comparison is the thief of joy. And so it's not so much looking where you could be or looking at what seems to be better, but it's, hey, how do I water the grass where I'm standing? Because the grass isn't greener over there, it's greener where you water it.
Yeah.
And so I see a struggle with confidence, self-belief, thinking that there's better situations elsewhere. And so just teaching these athletes that, hey, we just need to water our grass and be where our feet are.
Yeah, you sent me that quote. If the grass looks greener somewhere else, it's probably time to water yours. And you sent that. I was like, that's so. I had like I feel like you're always comparing yourself to others, or thinking of, oh, what would make this better, without really appreciating, um, what we have. And I saw, like, just a good question is, what do you think you do more of? Um, Appreciate the things you do have, or think about the things you wish you had? And I
Yeah.
think, I mean, probably 99% of the people think about the things they wish they had, without recognizing the things they do have and how they can make those things better. And just in college myself, I always was worried about things I couldn't control. Like, I'd strike out and think that, oh, the coach probably thinks I'm terrible right now. My teammates don't think I'm good. And it's like, that's just not the case. Like, and we put so much pressure on ourselves for reasons that don't even make sense, which
Mm-hmm.
is just crazy.
Yeah, and that's this idea, right? Going back to my why that I mentioned at the beginning, is that Romans 12:2. It's that scripture of, hey, we're not going to be conformed to the pattern of the world, right? Because the world tells us to almost do the negative thing. It's, oh, I just had a bad game. I need to be like negative and let this out. Oh, it's, I, hey, just struck out. Like everybody's probably looking at me like I'm horrible or I'm not doing great, right? But it's, we can't be conformed to what the world thinks or what the world's standards are for us, but we have to be transformed by our mind. And so it's just like how you and I are in the gym, we're doing bicep curls, we're doing bench press, we're doing squats. Just like we're training our muscles, we have to train our mind out of seeing the negative and into seeing the positive.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. One of the quote you sent me just yesterday: the mind is the engine behind our car, and we have to learn how to drive it. Otherwise, we'll crash. Can you talk a little bit just about what you mean by that?
Yeah, yeah, it's a funny thing. Like I love analogies. Like if you send me an analogy, if I see an analogy somewhere, I mean you can tell by the earth one, right? Like I
Yeah.
love analogies, I love acrostics. One I use is like focused. It's we're gonna stay focused. We're gonna have faith. We're gonna do it for others. We're gonna play for a crowd of one. We're gonna stay slow in the process, and then the T at the end is trust. Just trust the process.
Mhm.
But so I
Yeah.
just love all kinds of these acrostics, all kinds of these cheesy things. And so this engine one is a fantastic picture of us. Like we're the car, right? You and I, we got Ferraris, we got Lamborghinis, we got Rolls Royce. We're the nicest cars, right? You can be
Yeah.
whatever car you want to be. Or you can be a minivan, who knows? You pick whatever you
Yeah.
want. But our mind, right? Our mind is the engine and our mind makes it go. I like to say that we're always going in the direction of our most prevalent thought. We're always going in the direction of our most prevalent thoughts. And we need to learn how to steer our engine, steer our mind. It's just like when you're driving a car normally, you get in and you know where you're going. You know where your destination is. I get in my car in the morning, I know I'm driving to the gym. And then I'm driving back home. And then I'm driving to work. And then I'm at the end of the day, I'm driving back home. And then I'm maybe going to a CWS game because it's that time of year. You always have your destination in mind of where you're going. And so that's where we need to train our mind of, hey, maybe I have a goal of something I want to achieve. Okay, well, I need to set up that destination of how do I get to that goal? What are the pit stops? What are the steps I need to take to get to that goal? But I need to have that destination in mind. I need to get in that car and I need to drive with intentionality to get there. Because if I just hop in the car and start driving, one, I'm going to get lost because I have no idea where I'm going.
Yeah.
Two, I'm probably going to be looking around because I'm going to be looking for the next turn because I don't know where to go. And when you're constantly looking around at other people, at other things, at other pit stops, what are you doing if your eyes aren't on the road? You're going to crash.
Yeah.
And so that's where we need to learn how to control our engine, control our wheel. And when we learn how to do that, that's when we learn that we have control. We have control of our mind and where we're going. Because remember, as the beginning of the analogy is like we're always moving in the direction of what we're thinking about most.
Mhm. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's just something that's, people don't think about that enough. I think sometimes, staying with cars, sometimes I feel like we're just on cruise control. Like we kind of just let life happen to us. We're not really aware of what our destination is or where we're going. We're kind of just sitting there like along for the ride and not taking a whole bunch of action of the things that we can control. And so I think that's one thing that a lot of people, especially athletes, struggle with. That they're just like, I go to practice today. I don't have something I'm working on. I'm in the gym. I'm just doing this because I got told to. But I think just having that goal or having that plan just sets you up for success, just way more than the person who's just on cruise control.
100%. And I think it gives you, again, like I know I said this word already, but just a sense of, it gives you a sense of why am I doing this? Because it's like if you're just floating around, you'd be, well, why am I doing this? Why am I going to that? Why am I putting in the extra work here? Why am I going to the extra practice there? But when you have a destination in mind, you know why you're doing it.
Mhm.
And so you just need to be cautiously and consciously thinking about that of where you're going. And I want to do this with you, and I want to do it with the listeners. I did it at a basketball camp a couple weeks ago that I was speaking at. And I'll ask you the question, and then I'll give you back the steering wheel because I know you asked me to be on here. But
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
it's this idea. Do you think you can control your thoughts? I'm asking you, I'm asking the audience.
Yeah.
Do you think you can control your thoughts?
For the most part. I think
Okay.
there are times though where my brain just like goes places that I don't want to be or I don't have control over. But I think when I'm really locked in on something, I have full control.
Okay. 100%. 100%. I love it. I get answers like that. Sometimes I get a straightforward yes. Sometimes I get a straightforward no. Sometimes I get maybe. Sometimes I get kind of, sort of. But I did this at the camp and I said, everybody close your eyes. And then I said, okay, think of a red apple. Okay, now think of yourself picking up that red apple. Think of yourself throwing that red apple across the room. And then think of yourself walking over. Okay, open up your eyes. And then I'm like, okay, did you think of that? You thought of it. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have control over your thoughts. Like just like that, you can control your mind. You can control your thoughts.
Yeah.
You can control where it goes. And so I think there are times, like you said, where we're in a situation where we're in a moment and negativity creeps in because of the
Mhm.
situation, because of the things that we maybe haven't trained our mind to be or trained our mind to do yet. The negativity creeps in, but you can control your mind to then flip the script or rewrite the narrative or just put it bring it to a spot where, hey, I'm gonna start thinking about this so I'm not thinking about the negative because we can control our thoughts. We just did. And so I just think
Yeah.
that's a fun little exercise to remind each other, remind ourselves that, hey, we're in control of the wheel.
Yeah. That is pretty cool. Cause I'll be honest, a lot of times when I'm struggling, um, whether it's I got something important to do or I'm nervous about something, especially when I was playing, it would almost just go down a rabbit hole where I lost even more control of my thoughts. Like it would be like, oh, I hope I don't strike out. And then what do I think everyone else is going to think when I strike out? And then just things like that. And it's like, oh, this person's probably going to think that I'm terrible. And I'm like, at this point, I'm thinking for someone else. I'm not even in control of my own thoughts, let alone I think I can control what they're going to think. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with. But we have to recognize that we can control our thoughts and turn anything into a positive. Um, Kind of get into a few of the takeaways from some of the previous episodes, especially Dallas's episode. Um, as a leader, he always talked about how you have to kind of understand what other people are thinking or how they want to be coached. How can I get the best out of them? What are your thoughts on how, dealing with all the athletes you deal with? How do you get the most out of the players that you deal with?
Yeah, 100%. I love listening to all of your episodes and all of the takeaways, and I always have little nuggets that I take away from each one. Uh, just because we learn from each other, right? We're better together. Iron sharpens iron. And so this Dallas episode, I felt like he had so many one-liners in there that I kept having to like rewind. And so I love this idea, right, of you have to understand your teammates. You have to understand who you're coaching. You have to understand who you're around because everybody is motivated differently. I use this example of, okay, you and I are out on the field. We're both doing the same drill. We maybe make the same mistake and we have a coach over us and maybe the coach screams at you and like yells at you like no other. And he's like, blah, 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 but bites your head off in a sense of like, wow, like he just exploded on you. What the heck?
Yeah.
Well, if he did that to you in one world, that could motivate you to then go be better next time. And hey, that's how you're coached. That's how you're motivated.
Yeah.
But for me, if somebody did that to me, I learned better if he would have just came up around me and said like, hey, like this is what you need to do. This is how you need to be. This is everybody's motivated differently. Everybody's coached
Yeah.
differently. Sure, you know that firsthand as a baseball coach at one of the best high schools in Nebraska,
Mhm.
right? And so
Yeah.
you need to know your teammates, know your audience, know your players, because even for me and my athletes, I teach a lot of the same like concepts, the same like the car thing, and we talk about identity, and we talk about confidence and self-belief. We talk about visualization. We talk about breathing. We talk about all of these things, but how I teach it to one kid is going to be vastly different from how I teach it to another, because they might receive it in two different ways, in two
Mhm.
different mindsets. And so you really need to be a people person, and you need to love them where they're at, and know them on a personal level before you try to coach them. And and really it's just about meeting them where they're at, understanding what they need, and being an ear to listen.
Mhm.
And so that's that's why I think it's so important, is just loving people where they're at, and then everything else follows.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, I struggled with that as well. Getting to college my freshman year, especially, our head coach was a guy that kind of just, he was vocal. He would blow you up. If you messed up, he'd blow you up. But there were times where he would just tell you what you're doing wrong, and there wouldn't really be like a solution. He just said, you did that wrong. And I'm like, okay, obviously I already know that. Like, I just booted the ground ball. Like, what should I do differently? But it wasn't like kind of a conversational. It was just like, you did that wrong, like kind of just blowing you up. And so I think those are the kind of the tough conversations that a lot of coaches don't understand. I think that's something that, I mean, Dallas talked about it, which is awesome. And he's not even coaching, he's just as a leader on a team, which I
Yeah.
think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Obviously, we both, oh no, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think, when I talk about like loving your teammates and loving your athletes, and meeting them where they're at, I think it's so vastly important, because it shows true servant leadership. Is, hey, you're putting the we before me. You're putting the team before yourself. And I think if you do that and they see that, they're gonna remember that, and they're gonna know that. And I think the best teams are the ones who just truly in the individuals lay down their like wants, needs, desires for the sake of the team.
Yeah,
And I always say like, hey, we can go fast alone. Like Tristan, you may be able to go really fast alone, but you and I, we can go further together. We get a whole team of
yeah.
people, like we can go far. And so it's that idea of just serving those around you, and man, you'll go far. Those are the best teams.
Yeah. And I think it's so obvious, and you hear it in sports all the time. It's just when you're doing something um, for something bigger than yourself, like you, especially in, all these team sports that we talk about, or the athletes you're talking to, when you're surrounded by other people, if you just have this goal of, I'm going to be great, I'm going to be first team all conference, or I'm going to do this, but you're not making a positive impact on anyone else on your team, or you're not helping anyone, it makes it even harder. And so I think once you like go out of your way and say, I'm not just going to do this for me, I'm going to do this for the guys next to me. Usually everyone else has a lot more success too, along with yourself, because you're not so worried about your own results. You're just caring about the team, and you'll do anything to help the team win. And then the statistics just show after that.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. Could not agree more.
Yeah. Um, so we both know Max as well. And so one of my favorite takeaways from Max is we both know he's kind of got the mind of a goldfish. Like, I feel like he makes mistakes, but he just lets them go. Um, what are your kind of thoughts on just athletes and how you can respond after something maybe doesn't go your way? What do you kind of teach your athletes about, just having a um, short-term memory and just locking back in?
Yeah, I love that you use that goldfish analogy, or that goldfish picture, because one of my athletes actually loves that. I personally have never seen it, but Ted Lasso, I know that's like a popular
Yeah,
show or coaching show. I
huge
guess
fan.
is that analogy, or uses that
Yeah.
gold picture. And so some athletes like think things like that are great. Like, hey, be a goldfish, or be like having like an alter ego, where they can like step into the shoes of a different character. Like one of my athletes likes to be Captain America, and the second the national anthem hits, he turns into like Captain America, and Captain America's fearless. He strikes
Yeah.
hard. He doesn't worry about the mistakes. He just plays like on another planet, right? And so it's things like that. But um, having that short memory, I think, really goes back to having a standard, right? Max talked a lot about having that short memory, also like not being so set on a number. He talked about how he loves setting goals, but he doesn't always love how it's a number goal.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say standard over scoreboard, because one thing you can't always control is the scoreboard. You can't control the points. You can't control your average. You can't really control strikeouts, balls, walks, strikes, whatever it may be in your collective sport, right? You can't always control the numbers because sometimes they're out of your control. Maybe it's a weather delay, it's a game that gets postponed, game that gets canceled, umpire misses a call, um, you name it. Like there's things that are out of your control, and so having a short memory needs to be tied to your standard. And I'd say your is all the things that you can control. I challenge a lot of my athletes to have 3, 4, 5 standards that consist of anything that they can control. So that can be their effort, it can be their attitude, it can be staying anchored, like staying grounded in the midst of competition. It can be a positive mindset. It can be urgency. It can be your response, right? It's any of those things that you can control. And so whenever you catch your mind drifting in the midst of competition, they need to remember their standards, because it brings them back to ground zero. It brings them back to where they know they need to be. Because like you said, when you were in competition a lot, it tends to spiral real quick, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one negative thought creeps in, and then you think of the next one, and then the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one, because you didn't know how to stop it. You didn't know where you were going. But if that one negative thought creeps in, and you train your brain to say, hey, when that negative thought creeps in, I'm going to fall right back to my standard. I'm going to fall right back to the things I can control. You know how to stop it. And that's where I think a lot of people struggle, or they get it wrong, is when the negative thoughts roll in, they don't know where to turn. Like they don't know where to fall onto. But if we can teach our brain to fall to our standard, those are all things we can control. And so I challenge my athletes at the end of every day, at the end of every competition, at the end of every practice, to rate themselves on their standard. And I think it that slowly but surely trains our brain to not so much think of all the negatives that could happen, but to, when the negative happens, turn to our standard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great stuff. And I mean, kind of like how you talked about, is things just spiral out of control. Baseball wise, you'll see a ground ball hit to an infielder and they bobble it or something, and then they pick it up, and without even thinking, they try to throw it to first or something, and they just airmail it, and it's nowhere near. And I think that happens in a lot of sports. A quarterback fumbles a snap, and then he tries to be a hero or throw it somewhere, and then the other team picks it off. So I think just kind of when things maybe do hit the fan, it's just how quick can you recognize it and just get back to your standard? Because I love that. Just the standard over the scoreboard is huge. I think that's great stuff.
100%. And I love how right now we're getting to do the, again, like this takeaway section, because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about Dallas' episode, we're talking about Max's episode. I know I mentioned to you like KP, his episode, Bryce, like all of these guys have such wisdom and such like experiences that you can take little things away and add them to your standard. And the cool thing about it is, like, although you and I aren't playing like sports physically anymore, but life, right? Like you should have a
Yeah.
standard life. Like when things start to spiral in life, like where are you falling back to? And that's what I love about just the mental part of everything. The mental part of what I get to do is I'm not just preparing these athletes for their game, but I'm preparing them for the game of life, like the game
Yeah.
after the. And so that's a fun part, and I love that we just get to you and I both just get to encourage and equip and empower the athletes that we're around, and it's fun. That's one thing I always like to say is, if you think something nice, you got to say it. And so love that we get to do that.
What's up, everyone? It's Tristan. Whether I'm recording a podcast, training, or just trying to stay sharp throughout the day, hydration matters. That's why I partnered with ReLyte by Redmond. My two go-tos are mixed berry and lemon lime. And they have great ingredients, taste great, no problems at all, and just keeps me fresh throughout the entire day. ReLyte has helped me stay focused, energized, and ready to go, whether I'm hitting the gym, deep into an episode, or just living day-to-day life. They also have a great pre-workout, blueberry lemonade or peach mango, that gets you ready if you need a little extra kick before you hit the gym. If you want to try ReLyte for yourself, use the discount code Athletesmindset for 15% off. I'll drop the link in the bio and in the description, and you can get a good taste of what ReLyte's all about. Yeah, wow, that's really cool. If you think of something nice, just say, I like that. Going along with Bryce, one thing I loved about Bryce's episode is he just talked about giving himself grace. At first, he put so much pressure on himself, or would kind of talk negatively to himself after a strikeout or things like that. And then once he got to a point where he kind of just started caring a little bit less and was like, you know what, negative things are going to happen. Like, it's how I respond to it. What advice do you have for athletes that maybe do put a lot of pressure on themselves or are extremely hard on themselves when they fail, and just kind of giving themselves a little bit of grace?
Yeah, I love how Bryce brought that up, and it made me think of one word, and it made me think of the word identity.
Mm-hmm.
I look at it as, yes, you're giving yourself grace, but it's also Dallas and Bryce, they kind of overlapped in the sense of Dallas talked about how you are a football player, but you're also a person. And
Yeah.
Bryce talked about how you have to give yourself grace because guess what? You are a person.
Yeah.
And people make mistakes. Like, nobody's perfect, right? And so the advice that I would give is just understanding that you are not your sport, you are not what you do, but you're a person. Like, you're a human. Like, you're Tristan Gomez. I'm Joe Burton. Like, the listener who's listening on the other side of this, Spotify or Apple Music or whatever platform, like, you're you, and you have gifts and you have talents and you have abilities and you have everything that you need to go live the life that you are striving to live. And so giving yourself grace in the midst of high pressure moments of just the day to day, knowing that nobody expects you to be perfect. It's so easier said than done because I'm a perfectionist and I want to be the best at what I do, and I want to put out my best. I want to put my best foot forward in all the tasks and the things that I do in the day to day. But it's taking a step back and realizing that you are not your sport. And so if you do make a mistake, it's okay.
Yeah. I think that was my biggest takeaway from Bryce, is just that he got to a point where he was like, I'm so hard on myself and it gets me nowhere. Like, you know, I can be so hard on myself. And kind of going along with that, Colby Halter, former Florida Gator, and now in the Oakland A's organization, had one of the favorite things I've heard on the podcast. And it was, if someone talked to you the way that you talk to yourself, you would punch them in the face. And it was just talking about how much negative self-talk that athletes have. So how do you kind of manage that with younger athletes? Because I feel like it's so common, but how do you kind of tell them to talk more positively to themselves or actually instill that in them? Because everyone says it, but I think we a lot of times are just like, well, no, like, I'm not going to be too easy on myself, like, and then I'll be soft. And so how do you kind of instill that in younger athletes?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we do here with our athletes is teach self-talk. And it sounds so silly, right? But a lot of those things that sound silly are things that we need to do and that we need to train our minds to do and think about. And so I love just keeping it simple. And so when it comes to the negative mind and the negative mindset and the negative self-talk, that quote is so unbelievably true. But we need to have we need to have things that we bring in that are positives that we can rewrite, reframe, and reshape those negative thoughts and those negative self-talk statements with. And so I challenge all my athletes, all my people to grab a pen and get a notepad and then write down I am statements. I say, hey, what are you good at? I say, what are your talents? What do you like to do? What abilities do you have? And they tell me what they're good at and what they love to do and their passions, right? And then I challenge them after to read them. Like, read them over. Okay, like, I am powerful, I am strong, I am courageous, I'm a child of God, like, I am able, I am a conqueror, like, I can do it, I belong, I can do these things. And slowly but surely, it might sound silly, on day one. It might sound silly on day two. It might sound silly on day three, day four, day five, right? But the more bricks that you stack, the more bricks that you lay day after day of reading these affirmation statements, you will start to believe them. You will train your brain to actually believe that you are strong, that you are able, that you are capable, that you are courageous, that you are all of these things. And then you'll do it. You'll believe it when you walk out on the field and you walk out on the court. And so it's a training, man. It's a
Mhm.
process, and it's just like you train your muscles, you have to train your mind to self-talk in a positive manner, because we can all self-talk negatively. I don't think we need to train on that, right? We tend to see
Mhm.
the negative, but we
Yeah.
need to be more positive. And I think looking at things that you're grateful for, um, just training to see the positive, but start simple. Just right. Everybody who's listening right now, get out your notes. Everybody's got notes app on their phone.
Yeah.
It's in your pocket. Don't even take out a pen and notepad. Take out your notes and write. I challenge everybody listening to this. Go write 3 things that you are. You are strong. You are able. You are more than capable to do the things that you want to do. We just got to go do it.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely amazing. I think a lot of the times we get stuck, like you said, like it's not just going to change in a day. Like you can't just write these down. It's like, oh, I'll never have a negative thought again. But I think it's just the repetition. And
Mm.
one thing, another from Bryce's episode is he just said like your brain doesn't know when you're joking or not. Like if I kind of like just kept saying to myself like I'm an idiot, but I didn't really think I mean it, but my brain is going to hear that so often. It's just be like, yeah, I'm an idiot. Like that's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just continue to tell yourself positive things after positive thing, it's going to be so much easier for you to like really believe that, which I think is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Um, from Kyle's episode, one thing that I loved is just he's a great leader and someone who always is just super positive with everyone. But one of the takeaways I had from him was just like it's who you surround yourself with. You know, it's kind of like another one of your whys. Is he just talked about going back to Nebraska for a 6th year of college baseball, and he was like, I didn't do it because he was trying to get drafted or anything like that. He's like, he did it because of the guys he's with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you have to say about just like being on a team and just like being surrounded by good people?
Yeah, I mean, show me your friends and I'll show you your future.
Yeah,
Right? Who are you hanging out around? You are an accumulation of, I don't know the statistic, but I want to say it's the top 5 people that you hang out with. You are
yeah,
a a mix of all of them. And so if you take a step back, you reassess your life, like who are those people? Are they bringing you closer to your goals? Are they bringing you further from your goals? Are they bringing you closer to the person you want to be? Or are they bringing you further away? And I think people make or break, man. They in sports, in life, in a job, right? Like as we know, and we've played on some pretty talented teams. Like you and I, we going back, like we were on, I think we were ranked number 1 in the state when we played in high school for a majority of
yeah,
our junior senior year. And I think what made our team so great is that we would run through a brick wall for each other. Like
yeah,
we could joke, we could have fun, but we were also serious and we were on mission for each other. Like if someone
mhm,
hit you after the play, man, that doesn't fly because we loved each
yeah,
other. Man,
yeah,
and so it's that thing of it's a brotherhood, it's a standard. If everybody can buy around a mission, everybody can buy around the why. Um, I have a whiteboard behind me, and it talks about the identity of teamwork. Every great team has communication, they have trust, they have a collective responsibility, they care for each other, and they have pride in the mission. And
yeah,
so that's what a really great team is. And so you need to make sure you're surrounding yourself with people who want to be on mission together, like for a common mission, a common goal, a common thing that you're working towards. And so it really ties back to that thing that I said earlier of, hey, we can go fast alone, we can go further together. And so, man, who are you surrounding yourself with? And Kyle talked about it. Go listen to that episode right now. If you are listening right now, go listen to Kyle's episode. It's funny. He plays for the Savannah Bananas, and he talks some incredible game on just the mindset, the resilience factors, being a good teammate.
yeah. Kyle's episode is absolutely awesome, and it's so cool what he's doing for the Savannah Bananas. Like and he's the perfect personality for it too. Like that he more than anyone, kind of like what we talked about, is he makes a positive impact on everyone he's around.
Mhm.
And it's super cool to see what he's doing. So yes, go check out that episode if you haven't, and you'll learn more about some Banana Ball. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Um,
to come to Lincoln soon. Fingers
yes,
crossed.
sir. Get them at Memorial
You're
Stadium.
listening to this, Savannah.
Um,
Come out.
yeah, yeah. Um, just the last takeaway I had. There's plenty of episodes. All of them are great, but from the first episode with my good friend from Portland, Sam Stur, he talked a lot about how when he first started in college baseball and in JUCO and at Oregon State, he almost tried to like be other people. Like he kind of had an imposter syndrome. Like, I want to make it seem like I'm doing really well. I'm going to post on, social media, or like, make it seem to everyone like I'm great. Um, and kind of do things that other people do, but not have, done the same, have the same story that they had. What do you got on just, athletes just being themselves and just trust and, being confident and happy with who they are?
Yeah. I think it goes back to, again, two things come to mind right away. And one is that idea of driving your car, right? I think if you're driving your car and you're staying in your lane, you're going to your destination, but you're constantly looking out the window at what he's doing or what they're doing or what she's doing, you're going to crash because you're not looking at your lane. And so much of our lack of joy comes from comparison. And again, so
Yeah.
comparison is the thief of joy. And I think we need to stay in our lane and know that, hey, we have our own story. Like everybody's story is unique. Everybody's story is different, and it's special to them in their own collective ways. And nobody's story is boring. Like nobody's story
Yeah.
is lesser than because you may have not gone through something or because you went through something. Like everybody's story is special. And so that's one of just knowing that. And then that second thing was just people around you would rather follow somebody who's real than somebody who's just faking it to make it, right? Everybody wants to follow somebody who wears their heart on their sleeve, who shows up and is not trying to be everything for everybody and kind of just putting on a mask, but they want to follow somebody who's real, authentic, and really open to being a good teammate every single day. And so that idea of, hey, don't compare. And then that second idea of just be yourself, right? Don't compare.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. What would you rather have? Would you rather have everyone like you for someone who you really aren't? Or would you like to have, the few people or the people that you're really close with really appreciate who you truly are? Because I mean, I don't want to just be the guy that everyone's like, oh, Tristan's like this, he's like this. And I'm like, I'm putting on a front. Like, I'm just doing this so you like me. Like, no one ever wants that. You want people to really genuinely care about who you truly are. And I think that was just super cool that Sam kind of brought up. And he was like, it wasn't until I realized just like was confident in myself and was like, I don't need to seem like I'm God's gift to baseball or I'm amazing and stuff. I just need to put in the work. And once I put in the work, then everyone else can have their opinions. But I'm not going to, change myself based on the opinions of others. So I thought that was just great stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I like to end every conversation with the same question. We both got the same question. But if you could go back and tell your younger self just one thing about the mental side of sports and maybe somewhere you could have improved, what would it be?
Yeah. I love this question, and I love that I had a little bit of time to prepare for it because I kind of wanted to write you a book and tell you because there's so
Oh,
many.
God.
But
Yeah.
I took two things, and I'll keep it simple. But one is just to train your mind like it's a muscle. And I know I already said that in the episode, but train your mind like it's a muscle because your thoughts lead to your actions, and your actions then lead to your habits, and that's good or bad. So are you going to inject good thoughts that lead to good actions that lead to good habits, or are you going to constantly think the negative, think of the bad that lead to bad actions and bad habits? And so I wish could tell myself that I was in control. I was in control of my thoughts. I was in control of my mindset. And then that second one is just going back to the standard. And if you can take one thing away as a listener of this episode, is just have a standard for yourself. Have a standard for yourself in things that you can control. And it can be as simple as just 3 words. It can be maybe your effort, your attitude, your focus. are your drive, your confidence, and your response. Like, just take 3 words that are at your standard from now on. And as you're going through your work day, as you're going through your athletic work day, whatever it may be, live to that standard. And I wish I knew that long, long ago, but I know it now. So
Yeah, that's absolutely great stuff. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm excited to help promote 12-2 training with this podcast and just hopefully, get as many young athletes to learn more about what you do and how you can help them. And I just appreciate all of your insight. It was awesome, man.
yeah, again, thank you for having me on. I'm blessed to know you, call you a friend, and just to walk alongside and do this journey together. I love just Athletes Mindset podcast. And one thing that I really love about it is that every guy that you've had on so far, that I know is just a high character individual, a high
Yeah.
character person who carries themselves well and truly knows the importance of what a strong mind can do. And so keep doing your thing, and I'll keep pushing it. I'll keep promoting it because it's great.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I appreciate you, brother. Thank you again to Joe for sharing his journey and insight into the mental side of the game. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who would find it valuable. Thanks for tuning in and keep moving forward. Until next time.